I'm the king.
Howdy guys. So I know I do a lot of Atlas and Megaten stuff on my channel, but I'm also a big fan of the Metal Gear franchise. I don't know what it is about these games, but I love them. Each one is a work of art made by the master himself, Hideo Kojima. And I think I should rank the 5 main games in the order I like. For reference, I'll only be considering the original version of each game, so no Twin Snakes and no Subsistence Edition. I'll also be ranking the games on how I like them personally. I won't be taking review scores or anyone else's reviews into mine, just strictly on if I enjoyed the game. So, let's get into the video. Number 5. Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. I can already hear every MGS fan getting ready to storm into my house, take me out into the street, and crucify me. But honestly, MGS 3 wasn't that good in my opinion. It just didn't click with me like it did with other people apparently. But before I tear this game apart, I'll start out with the things I like about this game. Nothing. That's not true, I'm just kidding. The supporting cast is actually really good. It's probably the best out of any of the MGS games. Eva was a great character. I found myself really caring about her. Paramedic was full of movie trivia, and Ocelot was so much fun in this game. It was great seeing him develop, because he's a big part in the rest of the series, so it's good to see his roots. And Snake Eater, what can I say that hasn't already been said? It's such a kick-ass song. But sadly, I felt like everything else in the game was either bad or mediocre at best. The gameplay is clunky by modern standards and feels obsolete. The evasion clock takes forever to count down, the camo system is utter ass, and the camera is just awful. And probably the worst thing about this game? The story. I know I just pissed everyone off and lost all validation as an MGS fan, but I don't know why this story did not click with me. I think it's because it's been spoiled to hell at this point. I mean, everyone knows all the twists going into this game, and knowing all the major twists will take the fun out of any experience. I mean, imagine watching The Sixth Sense or any other M. Night Shyamalan film while knowing the twist. Not as fun. I think I'm being especially hard on this game because everyone says it's the best. But it just didn't hit those sweet spots the other games did. And it honestly felt like a chore to play. You know, I just had to keep telling myself, once you beat this game, you can play 4, 5, and Peace Walker and enjoy them. Sorry, Snake Eater fans, this one didn't do it for me. Number 4. Metal Gear Solid 5, Ground Zeroes and the Phantom Pain. I know it may seem like I'm being pretty hard on Big Boss's games, but to be honest, I really like this one. It constantly trades places with the games above it, and Snake Eater is the only game in the series I'd actually consider bad. 5 just made a couple of mistakes that kind of take away from the experience in my opinion, because when this game hits, it fucking hits, but when it misses kind of hard. The gameplay though is phenomenal. It feels like a fully realized version of Peace Walker, and honestly it's so smooth and easy to pick up that anyone can play this game. And the freedom present, it lets you do anything you want and it's amazing. And the graphics, they are gorgeous. This game is just beautiful to look at. And Sins of Our Father is a great song that encapsulates the meaning of the game. Just, my one major problem with the Phantom Pain is the same as Snake Eater. The story, don't get me wrong, it's good. I just have a couple of nitpicks and gripes with it. First, the Phantom Pain feels more like a side story in my opinion. 4 wrapped up the series pretty well, and it just made this game feel obsolete as a numbered title. I understand that this game is filling in some holes that came up throughout the games, but it does feel like it was unplanned and separate from the series. It actually feels more like a sequel to Peace Walker than a part of the main series in my opinion. Secondly, and my biggest problem with the story, is this game is dark. I understand that some people believe that this game is supposed to represent Kojima's experience with Konami in his final years, but Christ is this game fucking dark. I won't spoil anything from the story, but they kill off a lot of characters from previous games, and the game goes to some really dark places that just kind of feel out of place for Metal Gear in general. Don't get me wrong, it's handled maturely. It just feels weird to play a Metal Gear game with certain real-world aspects that are made present in the game. But honestly, if these are my only problems, this game would be way higher up on the list, because Phantom Pain is great. My real problem comes from the bullshit that was Ground Zeroes. Konami had no reason to release this game so early, and for so much. It's just the whole experience left a bad taste in many gamers' mouths, myself included. Thank God I rented it when it came out instead of buying it. but it did put me off initially from buying the Phantom Pain, so maybe Konami would have learned from that. Overall, MGS5 is a great game that I have a couple problems with. If you really liked Peace Walker, you'll love the Phantom Pain. If the whole fiasco with Ground Zeroes never happened, I would put this game higher on the list. I know some people consider Phantom Pain and Ground Zeroes as separate games. I don't. But if you do, Ground Zeroes goes below Snake Eater, and Phantom Pain goes on number 3 at my list. Number 3. Metal Gear Solid 4, Guns of the Patriots. Guns of the Patriots is an interesting game for me. I love it at times, but I also don't at others. It's really an game for me. I really like the gameplay in this one. I know I said Phantom Pain is a fully realized version of Peace Walker, but Metal Gear Solid 4 is a fully realized version of Snake Eater. The controls are clunky, but they're comfortable clunky. It actually feels like Metal Gear on the PS1, but brought over to a PS3 in a way. They also fixed the camo index, making it automatic this time. Actually, there's a lot of things they fixed in this game from Snake Eater. But the only thing stopping this game from being better is the pacing. I really enjoyed Acts 1 and 2 and parts of 4 through 6. In Acts 1 and 2, they really embraced this Shadow of War mentality. You can use battles to hide and move through the battlefield, and doing so is actually a lot of fun. Crawling through these large-scale battles and using the chaos to move is such a cool mechanic. It adds to the fact that Snake is an old war veteran, moving through the battlefield without issue. Sadly, once you reach Act 3, the game drops this mechanic entirely, and Act 3 slowed the game down and took it really to a grinding halt. And part of the pacing problem comes from the cutscenes. Now, Metal Gear is known for long cutscenes, but this game's cutscenes are long, even by Metal Gear standards. It feels like I'm watching Guns of the Patriots the movie sometimes. I understand that these cutscenes are important, but I feel like the story could have been given in a more organic gameplay manner, like having people talk while Snake is sneaking, similar to how the Arkham games did it from time to time. MGS4 has the makings of a great game, but if they just fix the pacing and add a bit more interactivity to the story, I think it would have been way better. Number 2. Tactical Espionage Action, Metal Gear Solid. That's right, the one that starred them all. I'm not gonna lie, this game is up so high on the list for 2 reasons. 1, the game feels flawless, by PS1 standards of course, and 2, I have a lot of nostalgia for this game. I actually first learned of Metal Gear from Smosh's If Video Games Were Real series as a kid. When that game came out, I thought, wow, that looks interesting. I noticed it could be played on the PS2, and I decided to buy it. So I saved up my money, and when I played it, I was not disappointed. I can still remember staying up late and playing this game in the dark, and man, the atmosphere was just there. While most old games feel bad by modern standards, MGS1 still feels great. It's not the best, but the overhead view and the radar have allowed the game to age pretty well in my opinion. The story is also rather good. I never felt lost or confused, even when playing as a kid. MGS1 has probably one of the easiest stories to digest in my opinion. This is probably due to the fact that it really doesn't have many games to reference. Yeah, it does have the 2 Japanese exclusive games, but oddly enough they reference them in such a natural way that you don't even need to play them. While I'm very nostalgic for this game, it's honestly still a blast to pop it and play them, even to this day. And the codec calls, they also look amazing in my opinion. I know it's all green and animated in 2D, but there's something about this codec style that I like. I think it's the hyper-detailed 2D style, contrasting with the very chunky 3D style of the PS1. Overall, I really like Metal Gear Solid 1, and I think that even though I'm pretty nostalgic for it, it's still a great game, and a great starting point for the series. Number 1. Metal Gear Solid 2, Sons of Liberty. I can already hear every Metal Gear Solid fan groaning as they watch this video. But honestly, I love MGS2. Sons of Liberty is actually one of my favorite games ever made. The graphics are amazing, especially when you know that this came out in 2001. This is the same year as Silent Hill 2 and Halo. And MGS2 just looks amazing in comparison. The gameplay is also pretty good too. It feels like MGS1, but updated for the PS2. But what sets this game apart? What makes it the best in the series? Honestly, it's the story. And I'd also argue that this is the best story in Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, not Snake Eater, not Phantom Pain, Sons of Liberty. 2's story revolves around not living up to your predecessor. Kojima knew he couldn't live up to the hype of MGS1, and he knew that anything he did would be compared to it. So he made a game about that, basically predicting the legacy this game would have. The story is also quite different than most other Metal Gear games. Most games are about the protagonist fighting to save the world from an unstoppable force. And the games feature very heavy political messages about war and the government. MGS2 still has that, but it's mostly pushed to the side in favor of a plot about the protagonist and how we carry our legacy. This game, it also features one of my favorite codec calls from the series in general.
Jack, do you remember the day we met?
I'm kind of busy right now, Rose.
You're right, sorry.
I do remember. It was right after I transferred to New York. There were all these tourists around you in front of the Federal Hall.
A group of middle-aged Japanese ladies came up and asked me which building it was that King Kong was climbing in the movie. I said it was probably the Chrysler Building, and then you showed up and started mouthing off. You were like, no, it's the Empire State.
I said the Chrysler Building was in Godzilla.
We started arguing, and I forgot all about the tourists. I was insisting that I was right, and you were doing the same. The next thing we knew, the Japanese women had gone away, and we ended up going to the Skyscraper Museum to see who had the better recall.
We argued all the way to Battery Park.
And for nothing.
Since the museum was closed, we went our separate ways from the museum. And then I found you again by coincidence out in the base corridor.
An amazing coincidence that we were actually working at the same place.
That night we went up to the top of the Empire State.
It was so beautiful. I could look down on the Chrysler Building from 120 stories above ground.
I felt overwhelmed. I didn't care anymore who was right.
And that was our first date.
We watched King Kong in your apartment a bunch of times that night. Didn't sleep till morning. If it weren't for that coincidence, we wouldn't be together.
I'd talk more about the game, but I would not dare spoil Sons of Liberty. It's not really talked about much, so spoilers aren't really known. I know many people don't like this game, but honestly, if you're just entering MGS, I'd suggest giving it a try after you've beaten 1. It's really worth your time. Well, that's my list. I know many people are going to be disappointed about the placement of many games, but remember, it's my list. If you'd like to, leave your list in the comments below for me to see. If you like my list, why not give this video a like? And if not, you can still give the video a like. And as always, subscribe while you're down there, and I'll see you guys next time.